future doesn't arrive on its own, it is built by the people who are bold enough to shape it. Welcome to the Power Talk series by Electrical Mirror at ElAsia 2026, where we bring you the perspectives of the industry leaders and decision makers who are redefining the future of the electrical and power industry. And I am Monica Chaha from Electrical Mirror, and this series is going to change the headlines. Today, we have with us a very special guest, Mr. Balasaheb from Scope Testing and Measuring Private Limited, for a very powerful and thoughtful conversation. Without a further ado, let's deep dive into the latest insights of Scope. Welcome to Electrical Mirror and ElAsia, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, sir, to begin with, I would like to ask, as Scope Testing and Measuring has been closely associated with power system and testing and grid technologies for years, and in today's rapidly changing landscape, so how do you see the future of grid intelligence evolving in the Indian market?
Yes, you are absolutely correct that Scope T&M is now in this particular field for last 38 years. And when we started our journey, at that time, not many things were being developed, designed and manufactured in India. A lot of things were required to be imported. So we started our journey with the thought that let's try to develop those things in India which are required to be imported. Now, coming back to your question, the kind of pace at which the power sector in India is growing, especially because of the addition of the renewables, that scale was not seen anywhere in the past. It's very fast growth, and it's a growth where it's not only conventional generation which is getting added, but because of the challenges that are faced in the integration of the RE, which is being, which is contributing so much in terms of the capacity, this particular integration has thrown many challenges. So the grid of future is far more complex than what we had imagined. But then, our ingenuity is ensuring that we are able to manage the challenges. The technologies and solutions to the problems that we are facing are evolving, and I am quite confident that we will be able to handle all these challenges. And at Scope, we will be always looking at contributing into this particular area by way of bringing more and more innovative solutions, where it's not only electronics but a lot of communication, lot of IT, and lot of analytics coming into the picture. So we are aware about what is happening, and we are trying to build the capacity where we actively contribute in this particular journey, in this particular journey of mitigating the challenges of future complex and evolving grid.
So, sir, as we can see, Scope is already doing a tremendous job in this space. And on that note, I would like to ask, as the power systems becoming more complex and interconnected, so how is the importance of testing and measuring evolving in the ensuring grid reliability and operational safety as well?
Right. It's a good question because when we talk about the grid, eventually the grid consists of the equipments, the equipments which are there in the substation and mainly the transmission lines. So when we have to be assured about the availability to the tune of 99.7%, in that case we can't afford that our equipment fail. Especially we can't afford that equipment fail without any warning. So that is where the role of testing and measuring instruments, or you can say validating tools, come into picture. So these testing instruments are used to assess the health of the equipments, the critical equipments on which we depend so much to ensure the availability of the power supply. These testing instruments, when are used periodically for testing this equipment, they will give us well in advance a warning that something is going wrong. All of a sudden, we will not be taken by the by surprise, especially by unforeseen failure if we are doing this. Of course, when you look at the testing instrument itself, they are also evolving. In good old days, it was more of a periodical testing of the equipment where these instruments were used. Now it has shifted to condition-based testing or maintenance, and now it is moving towards 24 by 7 online condition monitoring. So testing instruments, diagnostic instruments also are evolving, where they will be giving us early warning of any impending defect that can happen. With the fleet size of transmission or distribution system operators is also significantly increasing. So there, the adequate manpower which was there in past, the expertise is also getting thinner. So again, in this particular area, the evolvement in the testing and measuring instrument side is towards bringing the automated inferences, or the software telling us that what is wrong with the equipment. So I think these are some of the areas where things are evolving, and testing and measuring instruments field as such, or the fraternity, will also keep in pace with the requirements that are being thrown at it.
So I must agree with you that testing and measuring equipment is the backbone of the electrical system. So on that note, so I would like to ask, substations are no longer just physical infrastructure. They are becoming more intelligent and AI driven.
Yeah.
So and AI is booming in the market right now.
True.
So how significant is this shift for the future of power generation, power networks for electrical industry?
In fact, AI, as we had seen in short period of time, is entering in our life in much faster and in more encompassing way than what we would have imagined even a couple of years ago. And now it is really also contributing. There are so many problems that would have taken significantly longer time to resolve, that we are able to resolve much faster because of the AI. Now, when we talk about how do we use the data or the measurement results that are captured by the testing and measuring instruments, so that is where actually AI, or for that matter, the machine learning algorithms, they are playing a significant role. So much of data is now coming up. If you are looking at online condition monitoring, then there is a continuous data, and it's a big data, and you cannot manually possibly analyze that particular data. So you need to have these kind of algorithms, these kind of asset health indexing or asset monitoring softwares, where this data will be automatically and continuously monitored, and if there are any violations with respect to the preset performance parameters or limitations, that will be automatically flagged by the the software. So AI significantly is already playing a role in this particular domain, and without AI, for that matter, or without having proper algorithms, we will not be able to monitor this big data. We need the help of these kind of tools. So AI is going to enter everywhere, and testing and measuring fields is also not exception to that.
So, sir, as you have told so many benefits of AI, so according to you, there are any difficulties and challenges for T&M segment for Indian market, and do you see any scope for improvement as well?
In terms of using AI,
For testing and measuring equipment market in India.
okay. I mean, generically, if you look at every phase or every era, throws up the challenges. So in that particular period of time, we feel that these are the problems. How do we solve it? But then we had always have the ingenuity of solving those problems. And when we retrospectively look back at them, this gives a good, nice, nostalgic feeling. That a problem aaya tha, we resolved it. So I think this similar trend will continue. There will be challenges which will come, but there are technologies which are getting developed, which will help us to address these particular challenges. And for that, what we try to do is we always try to be close to our customers. We try to listen to what problems and challenges they are facing, so that we are able to gauge what is likely demand in coming days. So that in a way helps us to prepare ourselves, when actually customer starts demanding those things by way of tender specifications as such. So yes, there are challenges, there will be challenges, but I don't think that there is anything which is beyond a collective fraternity which cannot be solved.
I totally agree with you that we can tackle any kind of challenges and difficulties as a team. So now, can you please tell us how real-time monitoring and predictive offerings are transforming the power sector as well? So how do you see utilities adapting to the new technologies and reactive to predictive maintenance systems as well?
It's a very good question, because that is where the future is heading to. When you talk about the online, continuous, real-time monitoring, uh, in fact, allow me to say that Scope was much ahead of the time, because 15 years ago we developed an online circuit breaker monitor. Probably, as I said, it was ahead of time, so nobody was willing to buy it because technology was not, matured enough. The communication was not matured enough. But then we had developed and we had supplied, 100 odd real-time circuit breaker monitors to one of the private transmission company in India. But then today, we had been asked by our customers that, we want to deploy the online monitors, especially when it comes to transformers. There had been deployments happening for quite some years now, like there are online DGA, there is a partial discharge, or there is a bushing monitoring. But apart from transformer, for the other equipments, like for example for circuit breakers or for that matter lightning arresters, these equipments, which are again critical from the perspective of failure, customers had started demanding these real-time monitors. I'm happy to share with you that for circuit breaker, for surge arrestor, Scope has already developed the online circuit breaker and surge arrestor monitors. They will continuously monitor the health of these particular assets and give us the information which will help us predict the trend of the health of these particular assets. It will help us predict the likely failures that may occur. It's not only about the substation equipment. We also had come up with couple of other solutions, like for example, we had come up with a online thermal and visual monitoring system, which is also called as a touchless monitoring. So you have few cameras installed looking at the assets of a substation or any installation that you want to have, and you can preset multiple frames per camera, and that camera will keep on polling for that each of that particular frame. And at any of the time, if the camera finds after its own automatic analysis that there is a violation of temperature, it will give the alarm. So there is no manual intervention, because जैसे हमारे यहाँ पे अगर शरीर में कोई प्रॉब्लम होती है तो हमको बुखार आता है, वैसे अगर सबस्टेशन में फॉर्चुनेटली एक चेंज इन थर्मल प्रोफाइल एक ऐसा पैरामीटर है वेयर if there is a problem with the asset, it will get reflected in the change of thermal profile. So that is captured by using this online thermal and visual system. So that is one solution. Similarly, we are also offering now online EHV cable monitoring system based on the optical CTs. So this is a passive system, uses fiber optic and optical CTs, and gives us healthiness of the underground cables, EHV cables especially, which are buried deep under the ground, and we don't have any way of accessing their health. So this is another solution that we have started offering. So within Scope's portfolio itself, we are able to offer so many real-time condition monitoring solutions, and there are many other companies which are also offering few other solutions or similar solutions. So I think this is where the trend already is. Customer has started asking for pilots. Few customers had already purchased the particular, all of these products. So I think we are pretty much in that particular direction, and software is integral part of this particular systems, where automatically the software will tell you that yes, this is the condition of the asset. If you have a fleet of assets, you can have the asset health indexing, where you can decide out of these hundreds of assets, these are the assets which are in red category or orange category or yellow category, and you can prioritize the maintenance that you want to carry out.
So, sir, I appreciate you for mentioning a very special segment like thermal. Very less people mention it, and it is one of the major component
Right.
for monitoring. And you have discussed about the heartbeat of the electrical industry, transformers.
Yes.
So, according to you, what is the future outlook of transformer industry in India, and do you see any challenges in transformer segment as well?
I mean, currently transformer industry has very good or excellent order book, so they are all happy. But at the same time, there are challenges which are being faced in terms of the availability of the raw material that is required. Some of that is required to be imported, and the delivery periods are significantly higher, which is a major challenge which utilities are facing. So, in terms of the demand, it's quite there, and OEMs are happy. Uh, in terms of the delivery, customers are pushing that you increase your capacity so that we can get the delivery on time. So I think as far as transformer industry is concerned, this is one aspect. Other aspect is when you link it with the intelligent transformers, or lot of assets are going to be intelligent assets. So very soon you will start hearing that our transformer is an intelligent transformer or a smart transformer, because they will be putting a kind of a monitoring gadget on that particular transformer, which will be having a capability of communication, and it will make that relatively non-smart asset to be a smart asset. So this is again a direction in which transformer and few other assets also will go.
Thank you for highlighting this aspect of transformers. So now I would like to ask, in a highly reliability focused industry like power systems, what does meaningful innovation actually look like today?
uh, Innovations always had drive the progress. If I tell you one small example here, like when we talk about transmission size assets like say transformers, they are being monitored, but when you look at the distribution side and there are smaller transformers, there is not much of a monitoring of health of those transformers happening. It is generally the breakdown maintenance, transformer फूक गया तो उसको बदल डालो, that is what is there. But there also is a need of looking at them, avoiding failures, understanding the early warning about the possible failures. So very recently, with one of the Telangana distribution company, we did one POC or a pilot project where we developed a cost-effective monitoring system which will monitor the transformer of the which will monitor the temperature of the transformer, oil as well as winding. It will monitor the oil level of a transformer. It will also monitor the energy parameters of the transformers. And while doing all this, you asked about the innovation. So I'll tell you one small innovation that we have done here. Uh, Typically, when we want to measure the temperature of oil in a transformer, you need to put one sensor into the oil. And for that, you need to have a pocket available through which you can insert that sensor into the oil, and that needs to be properly sealed. Otherwise, it can be exposed to atmosphere. So that is always a challenge, and because of that, nobody generally does it. So what we did is we come up with the idea. We mount one temperature sensor on the body of the transformer. So we understand the transformer's body temperature, not the oil temperature. And we are measuring the loading current because we are monitoring the energy parameters. So by using a smart algorithm and by taking the input of loading current and the tank temperature, we are able to derive the oil temperature and winding temperature to the accuracy of almost 1 to 2 degrees. Now this has helped tremendously in terms of deployment, because tomorrow when you want to commission this, you don't need to have any pocket available. You can simply stick it on the tank of the transformer and you are able to do it. So these kind of things, which practically matter during the installation or commissioning, these are small innovations, but they make the deployment of this monitor feasible. Otherwise, it was not feasible because of the commissioning related troubles. This would have remained in the stores. So these kind of many things are happening. So I just shared with you one example that we recently did for monitoring the health of the distribution side transformer, and I'm sure that will go in long way. And again, innovation is not only about technical innovation. Innovation also here is about keeping the price low, because this is for a distribution side transformer. So it should not burden the cost of the transformer. So that thought is also there. So innovation. Not in abstract, but innovation with respect to the requirement and the purpose. I think that is what this one example shows, and I'm sure that there will be many such examples in the industry.
So you are right. The health of the transformers is critical to maintain a healthy environment in electrical industry. So now, as electrical infrastructure becoming more digital and interconnected, so how important will cybersecurity and system viability becoming in the coming years?
Like AI, cyber security also is a buzzword nowadays, because this absolutely and rightly so is a concern, because when we open our network, to outside world where there can be intrusion, cyber security is very essential. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल हमारे घर में हम ताला लगाते हैं, ठीक है, तो वैसा कोई भी हमारा सिस्टम जब एक्सपोज होता है बाहर की दुनिया में, सो वी हैव टू हैव द सेफ गार्ड्स. I think there was a lot of confusion and lack of awareness in terms of what cybersecurity exactly means, what it means to me, for my product, where it is required, where it is not required. But I think there are a lot of awareness programs which are being, conducted. Government also is playing its role. Things are getting crystallized. So I think, people will be slowly getting aware about what it means to me, what it means for my product. Does it require in hardware? Does it require in software, or does it require in both? Similarly, does it require in a standalone instrument, or it is only required when it is connected to the network? So these things are getting clear. But then one thing is very, sure, that when we are having a grid, of such size and scale, and one nation, one grid, we have to have all these cyber security related measures put in place. There is no go away from that. So this will be a necessity. This will be demanded by the customers, and this will be in our, national interest, that we genuinely comply our products, especially softwares and, networking related products, to these, requirements of the cyber security.
So, as you have mentioned that government is also doing a good job in bridging the gap for cybersecurity. So, according to you, there are any other gaps as well that government needs to bridge for electrical industry?
Of course, there are many. One thing that, like we are also associated with EMA, and EMA has a division for testing and measuring and monitoring solutions. So I'll just share one example where, this particular bridging the gap is required. Like for example, when testing instruments are being procured, every utility creates its own technical specifications. So a manufacturer, will be required to meet the specifications of each individual user, which can be different. So can there be a single common specification, which can be complied by the manufacturer, and then that's it. He doesn't have to keep on modifying the instrument, as per the TS of each and every customer. So standardization of the technical specifications, standardization of the type test, and the severity of the type test that is required. So this is one small area in the testing and measuring instruments area, where, there can be more initiative. Across the utilities, there can be common specifications. Similarly, there has to be more collaboration between utilities and the developers of the solutions like us. It should not be seen as a typical buyer and supplier relationship, but a collaborative effort. And in Scope's history, we are lucky that, we got this kind of a collaboration from couple of our customers, which helped us, develop the key and critical products, because of which Scope is known globally today. So that kind of collaboration we had experienced, but of late we believe that kind of a collaboration thought process needs to be brought back, and a lot of support and, co-working is required to be done, so that we are not working in silos. We work as per the requirement of the utilities, or, our customers. So that is where, again, the kind of a bridging of the gap is more welcome.
I totally agree with you, sir. We should work as a team to bridge this gap. So, looking ahead, what kind of transformation do you believe India's transmission and distribution segment is going to witness over the next few decades?
I'm sure there is going to be a lot of transformation. One thing is that, in terms of the installed capacities, today suppose if we are at around 500 gigawatt, we are already talking about, 1000 gigawatt. So look at the scale. Half of that, if it is going to come from the RE, the integration challenges, the expertise that the manpower or the engineers were having, relatively, a reluctant young generation to go and work in the field, cyber security related aspects, how AI is going to shape, the future. These are, the things, the answer of which will be in the, only time can tell. But I'm sure that there will be all these challenges. There are few other challenges, which are being discussed at many forums. For example, right of way is one of the bigger challenge. So if you don't get enough right of way, in that case, we have to look at how we can use best the existing right of way, how we can transmit bulk power, with the same corridor. And that is, giving rise to a lot of different technologies, like, enhancing the capacity of the conductors to maybe, having the HVDCs, or having, you can say, 1200 kV AC transmission. So these all, new evolvements will definitely come because of the demands and the challenges that will be seen. So I think these are some of the areas, where challenges will be coming, and you know the industry will be required to work to address this.
I'm also hopeful for the future of industry like you. So, sir, platforms like ElAsia 2026 are bringing together stakeholders and big industry leaders under one roof. So, according to you, how important such kind of platforms are for electrical industry, and how this platform is also helping Scope to bridge the gap in the industry?
No, I mean, these kind of platforms are absolutely essential because they bring together all the stakeholders. Like in case of ElAsia, if I look at, it brings together the manufacturers of various equipment, various components, the consultants, the contractors, the utilities. So all these, the government representatives, all all these, are essential part of this particular ecosystem. They need to come together, they need to collaborate, so a platform is provided. Now, how best we utilize this particular platform is up to everyone. How best we can interact. We take away the things from this particular event, and we work on that. But then there is no second thought that, these platforms and the other platforms like these are essential. One concern as a exhibitor of late we are having is there is not enough footfall of the end customer. Sometimes it happens that, it's an industry which is talking and meeting and greeting each other, but actual customer is not, coming in a numbers that exhibitors would like. So I think more work needs to be done from the exhibitor organizers to bring actual customers, because that is where, the returns for the exhibitors will come.
So, sir, as a prominent face in the industry, would you like to convey any special message to the young emerging technicians who want to excel in this field?
Well, one message I would like to give. For example, when I started off in this particular industry, at that time, ऐसे बोलते थे power sector is, a bimaru sector, ठीक है? So we used to tell ourselves that we are good people, but we are in bad sector. But today, in a way, the cycle has been completed. Today, power sector is booming, and today, even if you are not very good people, you still will be successful. If you come and work in this particular area. So, power sector is a extremely important, critical sector, and it needs good engineers. So, for all the young engineers who are thinking whether they should, come to this particular field, I will tell them that you must come to power sector. This is an area which has not remained only electrical. Lot of electronics has been added into that. Lot of information technology has been added into that. Lot of communication has been added into that. So this is now a complex web of, all these disciplines. So everybody will be able to enjoy, as per his liking, and this sector will offer them to work in that particular domain which, they have interest in. So I think everybody must come and, at least take a taste of what this particular sector is. These are good times to be in this sector.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing such valuable insight and advice to the young emerging leaders. And thank you so much, sir, so much for your time and share perspective for the industry. And thank you once again for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. I thank you, Electrical Mirror, for having me in this particular podcast. Thank you very much.